This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Lovely. I am your host Mehak and happy Friday. If you're new here, lovely to meet you. And if you've been here before, you already know the vibe. We talk love, dating, relationships, and all with a unique lens of balancing our upbringing and connection to immigrant identity, but also doing what feels right for us today. So last week's episode, if you didn't get a chance to listen, I sat down with Sharif Tahir. We spoke about how men need deeper and genuine connections and friendships to lean on.
Sometimes I feel like I don't trust their opinion on stuff like that. Because I don't know that they're emotionally mature enough to have an opinion that I care about. God, that's probably awful.
Having that space to open up not only helps men, but it also helps them humanize the dating process and kind of how they show up in relationships. So if you want to hear and listen more on that, go catch up on that episode after. Every episode, I like to give you a little update on what's going on in my life. Last time I told you one of the matchmakers that came on the show from episode 1 set me up with someone. And the thing is, he doesn't live in Canada. So I feel like I'm right now navigating a long distance situation for the first time, which is very new to me. We've been talking for a few weeks, going back and forth on whether he should come visit so we could spend more time in person. Honestly, it's scary. It's unfamiliar territory. I feel like I'm kind of used to dating people who are emotionally unavailable. And I feel like dating is like holding up a mirror in front of you. So of course I was emotionally unavailable too, but now it's different because for the first time in a long time, there's mutual emotional availability on both sides. And that is so scary. That is so terrifying because I feel like that means that there's a real chance this could actually work. And I'm scared. I don't know if I want my life to change and all of that I'm navigating. But another new thing for me is I'm also dating outside of my background and religion. And again, it just seems all too real, all too serious. And I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. But I think I also am reminding myself that the best way to feel safe is to let new experiences shape my reality instead of relying on past ones. So he's coming in April. I will keep you updated. We have a very, very exciting guest on today's episode, and he's got quite the resume. So bear with me while I try to do his intro justice. So we have Richard Servate, and he ditched Silicon Valley to make people laugh for a living. He also has a special on dry bar comedy.
I matched with this girl on Bumble yesterday. I invited her to the show I was on yesterday. And it was 3 miles from where she was. And she's like, yeah, it's too far. I was like, in your profile, it says you love to travel.
He can be heard regularly on Laugh USA and SiriusXM. He released an album in 2024. And he's been seen on NDTV Stars of Comedy. He has written sketches with SNL. And he has also completed a 20-show tour of India. Richard, hello. Welcome to Lovely.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And you got my name right and my credits, and that feels very validating. So thank you.
Yay, I love that. I get really mad when someone mispronounces my name. But yeah, how are you? What's, getting you excited these days?
How am I? I'm generally well. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm settling into finally knowing or feeling comfortable with who I am. So that's kind of giving me a little bit of optimism. I turned 40, months ago, but I really believe this is the age where you integrate all the different parts of yourself.
I totally get that. I entered my 30s a few years ago, and I feel like as you enter this new era, you're constantly learning about yourself, you're evolving. So I can see that happening too. Where are you based right now?
I live in Los Angeles. I'm in West Hollywood.
Okay, nice. Born and raised there?
No, I'm born in the Bay Area. I was born in Fremont, which is a very Indian sort of hub. It's a place. Indian people, they love to go to a big city and then settle like 70 miles from that city.
That is so accurate because I'm from Toronto, but my family lives in Dallas and they don't live in like the heart of Dallas, like downtown. They live an hour away from everything. Why is that the norm? Why do they do that?
I think it's because like America is so awesome to Indian people that they don't even have to be in the big city to get excited about America. Like just, a department store that's not crowded, some sort of hometown buffet, Chili's, Fridays, some sort of like venue to go eat at that's just easily accessible. If not for stand up, I probably would have stayed in the Bay Area. But stand up is not a respected career in the Bay Area. So you have to go to LA to, be legitimized.
And did you learn that the hard way or?
It's just very funny. If you're in San Francisco and you tell someone you're a stand-up comedian, like you'll literally see a blank expression on their face. They'll just kind of be like, okay. And then it kind of ends the conversation. Whereas if you're in Los Angeles and you tell someone you're a professional creative, that's like, oh, okay, cool. We get it.
Right. I feel like it's more normalized there as opposed to the Bay Area.
Big time. It's the same. If you're in the Bay Area and you see everyone with their laptops at a coffee shop, they're coding some sort of, they're writing code for some startup. If you're in LA and you go to a coffee shop, you just see people working on scripts. This is more my kind of atmosphere.
I like to ask this with all of my guests that come on the show. And I think you alluded to it, but what is your connection to immigrant identity?
My background is Indian. My parents came to America in the 70s. They're from two different parts of India. My dad's from a very old city in India called Ujjain, which is like the home of Sanskrit. And my mom is from a city near Bombay called Panvel. They came to the US in the 70s, came to Fremont, and I was born here.
And, this is a dating podcast. We talk about all things modern love, dating, relationships. What is your relationship status?
I'm single at the moment, but feeling optimistic.
Okay. Are you like single and open to dating, or we don't have time for that right now?
I'm single and open to dating. I think a relationship would definitely enhance my life.
Okay. And are you on the apps? Are you like going on dates right now?
I'm focusing on IRL right now. I think the apps are a very interesting ecosystem, especially as a programmer, because I used to be a computer programmer. It's the apps are fascinating. I think there's a lot of things wrong with them and there's a lot of things right with them. And maybe this is a tangent. I know some people that do great on apps, but there are people that are good at the skill of being on an app. And if you're not skilled at being on an app, then it's just not going to work for you.
I feel the same way. And I feel like after a certain amount of time has passed and you've been on the apps, the burnout is real. So I think meeting someone in person does feel refreshing and you get to see them, like, their body language, their energy. And I think you're able to maybe find better matches that way. Do you find yourself going up to someone in person when you like see someone that you're like, oh, like, you're cute or like, I want to get to know you? When's the last time you did that?
Yeah, that's actually my preference. I've done it fairly often. I try to make a habit to talk to somebody every day, whether that just be somebody in line. Doesn't have to be a woman I'm interested in, but I'm always trying to keep the real life connection going with people. Generally, it's kind of funny. If someone's attractive, you can kind of just like go stand near them and then something will happen. and then you can kind of comment on that, and then that's going to start a conversation. There has to be like an organic way about it, but I will, yeah, comment on something she's wearing, something that she's said to somebody. If she's got a dog, that's great. In real life, feels great for me. An app, like when I really think about it, it's not how I want to meet somebody.
I hear you. I have the same views on it, which is why I'm open to, having this matchmaker set me up and try new things. But speaking of dating and navigating this space, I feel like a lot of how we show up in relationships or, as we're dating someone, it's kind of like a remix of how our parents did it, right? So, like taking what we learned, seeing them go through it versus unlearning some of the things that we don't want to bring when we get into a relationship. So I'm really curious to kind of hear from you, what did your family teach you about love and being in relationships growing up? And kind of like a follow up, what do you think our parents got right?
Okay, so my parents had basically an arranged dating situation. It wasn't an arranged marriage where they saw each other for the first time on the wedding day, but it was definitely just like, okay, here's my picture. I like your picture. Meet up 2 or 3 times. Yeah, you seem like okay, and then get married. But I would not want to model anything after their relationship because I don't think it was a healthy dynamic. They got it right in terms of marriage being more of just like a partnership where it's like this is a marriage as a functional structure to raise children and be in America and sort of just like move forward. But in terms of love, I don't know that that was in the relationship.
You mentioned it wasn't a healthy dynamic. What do you mean by that?
So I think I have a very unique situation compared to a lot of people. So my mom has a pretty severe mental illness. She has schizophrenia. It wasn't known when they were married. My dad sort of stumbled upon this as the marriage progressed. And I think that led to a lot of resentment. At a certain point, like, I think he kind of tried to block it out of his head, like, hey, maybe this isn't real. And he continued on the path of having children. And then by that point, there was no like exiting this relationship. Also, divorce is very frowned upon in South Asian culture. So they chose to stay together and it just became a functional arrangement rather than, a real relationship, I would say.
I was not expecting that, but I think you kind of said it there, right? And again, I think in terms of what they got right, they showed us resilience and they showed us commitment. That's something that I think we're lacking these days. Like at one small thing, we're like ready to exit, right? Rather than kind of stay and work through that. And that's a pretty big thing I'm sure they had to navigate. And it's not very common.
Right. These days, people get the ick based on anything, It's like, oh, like he ordered sweet potato fries. That's kind of weird. Like, and my parents, my dad was like, well, she's got schizophrenia. Okay, let's make it work.
If you're the type of person that always gets the ick, you're the problem. Like you need to evaluate what's going on with you.
The ick is the real pandemic now.
My parents didn't date either, right? It was more of an arranged situation. My dad wanted to go study in the States, and his dad is like, well, you got to get married first and then you can go. So, kind of like saw my mom at like a few parties and was like, okay, that one. So, like, there was never like dating like that. And I think in terms of what I didn't really see was like that expression of emotions and love and maybe some conflicts being swept under the rug. So I think that's kind of I've unlearning that in therapy. I know you're a big advocate for therapy.
Oh yeah, I've been in therapy for many years. I started in college and have just been going ever since. Definitely has been great for me to learn how to talk about emotions and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny, like I think I might talk about it too much now. And a lot of my comedy is very like overshare, which if not done correctly can actually push people away. I had the same issue, which is that, my parents didn't show any emotion. My dad was all about, hey, get good grades, get a good job. Like that is it, pure survival. So now, yeah, learning to show emotions. Yeah, it's been really healthy. And somebody actually these days will not date you unless you show emotions. I think in our parents' generation, I think being a man and just making money and doing your work was perfect. That's all that was kind of required of you. But now if you're not emotionally available, I mean, you can get rejected very quickly.
And I think like getting rejected for emotional unavailability, I don't think necessarily like that's not an ick, like that's like you're not aligned with what I'm looking for long term. So I think that part makes sense. I do think that when someone is against therapy or they're like, oh no, like I don't need it, like I will never go, that to me is a red flag, right? But if you haven't had the opportunity to go, then like that's fine. But if you're open to it, then that's okay too.
Being against therapy, that means that your ego is a little bit too strong. And that's going to be a red flag, because a strong ego and a lack of self awareness is probably going to just lead to failure very quickly.
Seeing what you saw like growing up, does that impact how you show up in relationships today? Like in terms of, let's say, attachment styles or how you navigate things?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why it's actually taken me to this age to be a good dating prospect, because I think the unlearning took so long. And that's a good point that you made, that a lot of dating is unlearning, because you have a bunch of ideas that have been given to you through friends, social media, movies, and your parents. And you have to go through the phases of dating people in all of those mindsets. Like, the first time you date somebody, it's like, okay, well, I need to meet someone who looks like that character or is like that character in that movie. And then you go, okay, that's not going to work. Then, your friends tell you what kind of person you have to date. And then you try that, and then that doesn't work. Then you go down some YouTube rabbit hole where some dating coach is telling you who to date, and then that doesn't work. And then finally, after you go through all those phases, you're like, okay, now let me try what I want to try. And then I think that's kind of the time where you find success.
I feel like therapy has allowed me to do that because I started going into therapy because I wanted to break like the generational trauma cycle, right? Like I don't want to pass it down to eventually when I start a family. But I think growing up, it starts with your parents and like the environment that you're in. And they have like this perception of like social identity and like social things that are acceptable or, how you look, right? Like watching Bollywood movies, you always have to be super thin, you have to be fair skinned, you have to do that. And I think that also translates into what your parents or your friends think you should be with, right? So like if someone dates outside of their type, they're constantly thinking like, what will people think if like they see me with this person? So there's so much unlearning. And I think one of the things that I've learned from seeing my parents date, it's not always about choosing the right person, but it's becoming the right person. If you're showing up well, then you'll attract someone that shows up well too.
If you don't know who you are, a relationship is the main place that you'll get triggered. So it's like, anything can trigger you, right? Like the news, whatever, your friend says something about you. But the main person who's going to trigger you is the person that you're dating. And so it's like you have to, figure your stuff out first. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
So speaking of dating, I was thinking about this a few days ago, and I want to get your thoughts on it because, you did say you were in tech before. I feel like, when you meet someone new for the first time, so much of who they are is attached to what they do for work. I remember when I was in like my mid to late 20s, I was working this really fast paced, demanding but rewarding job. And anytime I introduced myself, I was like, oh, I have to share what I do for work because that will immediately make me come across as, more attractive or whatever. And even on dating profiles, when you're like, you got the finance bros, you got the tech bros, you have like, I've had a history of dating first responders. I don't know why it happened. Like, I love a man in uniform. So, like, firefighters, paramedics, cops, like, that was my life for like mid to late 20s. They had certain traits, like, they were reliable. They were very much doing acts of service, which was like one of my love languages, but then struggled to have words of affirmation or express themselves. So, I want to hear from you. Do you think we date people or we date their careers?
That's pretty interesting. Well, I think, men are attracted to different careers than women are. For me, I don't care. A woman's career, I don't mind what she does. But I think a lot of people definitely do. I mean, here in LA, I know a lot of women love dating athletes. And that's like the main thing. For me, like I'm always attracted to like someone who's like loyal and nurturing, that kind of thing. That might fall into like the nurse doctor category a little bit. I don't think I'm dating those people because of the career. I think it's the characteristics first.
Tell me a little bit about, like, did you see your dating dynamic or the people that you were dating shift from when you were in tech versus going into comedy?
You just date the person that you see most often, I used to date people that were computer programmers, and then I dated a bunch of comedians. And the shift, it had nothing to do with who I was choosing. It was just the people that I was around the most. It's very funny. Like with comedians, they're very easy to date because these women are like super funny, super charismatic. But then all comedians have some underlying trauma, and that generally comes out. It's very tough, I think, for one comedian to date another comedian because now you have two different types of trauma. And if they don't fuse correctly, you're going to end up in some sort of disaster. My preference now is to date someone who does not do comedy.
But what if like you find the woman of your dreams, but she is a comedian? Is that still okay?
That's definitely, no, it's still okay for sure.
Have you ever had an interaction where you went on a date and the person did not find you funny?
Oh, yeah, all the time, yeah. Yeah, I've had it where like, I was texting somebody on, or maybe going to meet up with someone on an app, and then they're like, hey, can I watch your comedy real quick? And then I send them a video, and then they just ghost after that. I've had it where I was dating somebody and they come to my show and then they see me on stage and they don't like it. And then, that just ends, which is, totally fine. It's good because, if they like my comedy, then it's like, okay, that's like a plus. I don't want someone to just be ambivalent on my comedy. I want them to either like it or hate it. You want someone to be a hell yes for you. And it's good to filter people out, like it's good to just be like, oh, well, we didn't go on this like 3-year journey and then find out that you don't like my comedy.
And I feel like the best way for me to find out if a man is funny is like I really pay attention to the TikToks he sends me, because I just feel like sometimes you can really figure out a guy's sense of humor based on what he finds funny. And I've had instances where I was like dating someone and they were sending me like memes and TikToks where I was just like, what? Like, this is what you're like dying at? Like, it just didn't make sense.
When my aunt sends me TikToks, I'm like, oh my God, we do not have the same sense of humor at all. I'm not dating my aunt, obviously, but it's pretty funny, like how different someone's sense of humor can be.
I think like when you have your person with you, like I want to be able to laugh with them. You know what I mean? I think that's like a big like foundational element that I would want to just have a good time and laugh. So if that's missing, then I don't think that's going to work.
I don't actually know how people date without that element. That's like the main thing that syncs you up. Especially like for me, like I don't laugh at traditional jokes because I've been doing stand-up for so long. So for something to be funny for me, it has to be like a little bit, something's going wrong, or it's got to be like awkward, or it's got to be like cringy. That's the kind of stuff that makes me laugh. And so when I find somebody who laughs at that kind of stuff, then it's like, oh, okay, cool. We're on the same wavelength.
So something that I find really comedic is hearing horror stories from dating.
Dating disaster.
I'm sure you've had some dating disasters. Would you care to share a dating disaster that like when someone asks you, like you always think about this one time? I want to hear it.
I made the mistake of like setting up a date that's like too big a couple times. I've like done like a trip with someone a little bit too early, like even before talking with them on the phone. So I don't know. Sometimes you just get excited. You're texting with someone. You're like, oh, this person's cool. So I matched with this girl on this app and we were texting a little bit and she seemed great. And I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't we go on this like 2-day camping trip to Joshua Tree? I think it'll be fun. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So I went to go pick her up. She gets in the car. And within 2 minutes of talking to her in the car, I realized that we have nothing in common. Our vibe is completely off. We don't laugh at anything similar. I knew that we had like zero connection. And now we're going to go on this 2-day camping trip. And so it was the most awkward, sad 2 days.
That's crazy to me, like not even talking on the phone and then going on like a 2-day trip. But at any point in time while you were in the car and you were like, okay, this is awkward. We don't have a connection. Did you think about being like, oh no, we shouldn't do this? Or like, I guess, why did you go along with it?
Yeah, you know, I was definitely in my head being like, okay, how can we get out of this? I think it felt like I was in denial. And a lot of times, you know, I'm very like conflict averse. I was like, okay, am I going to say this right now? Am I going to make this super awkward? Like, and instead of dealing with the conflict, I was like, I'd rather just go through 2 days of just the worst thing ever instead of bring this up. And I mean, I've definitely learned from that where now I will voice a concern very quickly. You know what happened was when we were texting, she would take a long time to respond, but her answers would be like very fun and like interesting and thoughtful. And I was like, oh, this person seems great. And then when I met her in person, she was so in her head and she couldn't have like an organic conversation. So texting was great for her because it was like she could write an essay and turn it in 6 hours. And as opposed to this, where it was like she has to say something when I say something. And it just, you know, and her default was to just be like very snarky and very condescending to every single thing I said, because I think she was nervous and she didn't know how to respond. And so, yeah, anything I said, I was like, you know, we're going to go to Joshua Tree. We're going to have a great time. She's like, really? Doesn't seem that fun. Isn't it just a bunch of cactuses? That was a 180-degree switch from her personality over text, which was very warm and thoughtful and like kind of funny. Yeah, in person, it didn't translate at all.
How did those 2 days go?
Yeah, it was pretty, oh my God, it was pretty sad. It was like, we kind of cohabitated for 2 days. And then, you know, I was just thinking of ways so that we could spend time apart. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to take a little breather. I'm just going to go on a little hike by myself. You know, you can stay here. I kind of like made up some work stuff. I was like, oh, I have to work. And then I started taking a bunch of work calls and just like, there was one bed and, you know, so I was just like sitting on my side. I kind of like made like a little divider kind of.
Oh my God. I'm like almost like breaking out in hives listening to that story because I'm trying to picture myself in that situation. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I could tell like she kind of didn't enjoy it either. And so I think we were both like, all right, let's just get through this. That was really bad. And then, you know, at the minute we got back, like we haven't said a single word to each other.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely awkward. And then did you ever try this again with anyone else? Or now, you know, you talk to them, you FaceTime them, you meet them.
Oh my God, you know.
Close and then you go on a trip.
So, okay, so that time it was me who suggested the date. But then another time, this girl suggested it. And so I went along with it. And this date, oh my God, I don't even know why I agreed to this. She said, I'm going to Copenhagen in Denmark for a work trip. And she's like, do you want to come with me? I was like, okay, that sounds like she's really interested in me. She's like flying to Copenhagen. She's like, the company's giving me a hotel room. Do you want to just stay with me in the hotel room on this week-long trip in Copenhagen? And I was like, okay. And we had hung out in person 2 or 3 times. And I didn't really feel like we had a connection, but I was like, wow, if she's like saying that like she wants to stay with me in this hotel room, I was like, okay, let's go. So yeah, I flew with her to Copenhagen and stayed with her in this hotel room. And, I was like, okay, so maybe she likes me. So we were sleeping in the same bed. And then like I put my hand on her to touch her and she just swatted it away. And I was like, what? Like she like hit me. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I was just on my side of the bed and just being like, what am I doing here for a week? And so then I had to like figure out what to do for a week in Copenhagen, basically by myself. So yeah, I made the mistake again the second time.
Wait a minute. So after she, like pretty much swatted your hand away, did you guys have a conversation? Like, hey, why did you do that? Or was there a conversation the next day?
You know what? There was no conversation. I was just like, wait, what? I'm not sure what the issue was. Like, I do think she liked me, but I think she had some sort of like intimacy problem. So sometimes when you have a problem with intimacy, you'll try to make this grand gesture to get through it. And so I think her grand gesture was to invite me on this like international trip. But I think despite doing that, she wasn't able, like, I think when my hand touched her, like, I think the feeling was too much and she just completely shut down. We just didn't talk about it. This was like 10 years ago. This was back when I was very emotionally shut down. I think she's very emotionally shut down. Yeah, so we didn't talk about it at all. It was just very awkward.
So no more trips since then within like the first few dates.
No, no. And then even after that, I made a couple mistakes where like, I went maybe to a concert or something like that with somebody before actually talking to them on the phone. But now I have a hard and fast rule of like, no, we got to talk on the phone. It's got to be FaceTime and we have to have a great FaceTime conversation. Then we can meet up in person. Otherwise, there's no way.
100%. And I'm right there with you because if you can't hold a conversation on FaceTime for like, let's say, it doesn't need to be a whole half an hour thing. It could be like, hey, I'm about to head out for something. Just wanted to like hear your voice and talk to you. And then like you just talk for 5 minutes and then you figure out, okay, I want to see you on a date.
It's got to be FaceTime. And then we have to have some sort of like, and then the first meeting has to be quick where the FaceTime is like a vibe check. And then the first meeting is like a attraction check. And then we can do more stuff. If you have chemistry with someone, you could talk to them for 6 hours and it doesn't feel like anything. Like the other day, I talked to this girl. We had no chemistry, and it was only 30 seconds or something. And I was just like my eyebrows were furrowing, like my voice was getting hoarse. Like it's so interesting.
And what do you do in that situation? Like, do you just like be open and honest? Like, hey, you're a great person. I don't really see this progressing. I'm going to like head out.
These days we have to learn to be very like socially polite. And so this happened. I take dance classes, and we were talking during the dance class, and then I was just like, "Hey, you know what? I really need to like practice this routine real quick." And so I kind of exited that. You always these days have to find a social nicety to get out of something. Like just saying to someone, hey, I'm not feeling this connection. On some level, I think, radical honesty is good, but I think these days you kind of have to. I don't think people want radical honesty. You need to package it up a little bit.
I always say that you can be honest. You don't need to be brutally honest. But see, I feel like I do have to be like upfront. Like as a woman, I just feel like I need to like have firm boundaries and say it in a way where like when I'm saying it, men are not trying to convince me to have another view because I've already decided, right? But I've had some awkward dates as well. Have you ever gotten catfished? Because I've gotten like mildly catfish and that was awkward.
I mean, I don't know if it's catfishing. Like, what level catfish have you had? Like, where the picture is not even the person?
No, it was the person, but the pictures were like from years ago.
Oh, yeah. I've been catfished like that. It's very easy to take a picture of yourself that doesn't look like you. Like, you can really do it. Like, if you go like real high, and then like you can also, there's so many like programs now where you can just squeeze the photo and just make yourself, a totally different body type.
So like when I went on this date, I remember walking in and he got there first. So I'm with the hostess. I'm like, hey, like I'm just like meeting so-and-so for dinner. And then I see this man standing up and like waving at me. And immediately I was like, oh God, like, please don't be that. Please don't be him. And then he's waving and I was like, oh, like it is him. So then I walk over, I give him a hug. We sat down and immediately.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
I'm like, how do I get out of this? And we're both from the city, right? So like, and it was like a Friday, 8 p.m. We didn't make any plans after, like we were having dinner. So we ordered our drink and I was like, Mehak, like, how are you gonna get out of this? And then I was like, so what are your plans after? Like, do you have anything going on after? And he's looking at me like, no, what do you mean? You're my plan. Like, I'm here, And then he was like, oh, no, like, what about you? I'm like, yeah, my friends are in the city. I'm going to go like see them after. So that was like my exit. And then I was like, honestly, I'm not even hungry. Like, I'm going to go like eat with them. So I just got like a drink. And then he was like, oh, do you want to go to another spot before you meet your friends? And that's kind of when I was like, listen, you know exactly what you did here. I don't have to like tell you. I'm a girl that just says it straight up. Again, and I'm not being rude. I'm just giving you a reality check of like, I see what you're doing and this is not okay with me, but I wish you all the best. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't understand why people think catfishing would even be an option. Like, I mean, has it ever worked or something? Did it work one time 30 years ago? Like, it's just so weird that people would try to catfish. I think, it just kind of speaks to the level of delusion that our society lives in these days. I do think we've sort of been raised with the you can do anything, you can be an astronaut, that kind of mentality. And I think that's new, it is starting in our generation. And some people are not willing to accept their limitations. I think accepting your limitations, I think that's when the magic finally happens. And it's like, that's just crazy. I would never put a fake picture on a profile and then go meet someone and be like, ta-da, it's just like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, like what's the end goal here? Like it's
what's
not
the end goal? That's crazy.
Yeah. After all this catfish talk, I just have to say it's funny how we come from a culture where arranged marriages are totally normal. And that was the norm back in the day, right? Even today, some places still. And we've literally been choosing life partners based on a couple of pictures for generations. So really, Desi folk were the original catfishers. But I'm so glad we don't need to go through that. And I'm sending thoughts and non-religious prayers that doesn't happen to you or to myself. And seriously, though, thank you for being so open and sharing your story. It has been amazing having you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If people want to see some of your comedy and, learn more about you, where can they find you?
Follow me on Instagram at Richard the Comedian. I was able to get that Instagram handle and I'm very excited about it. So I have all my comedy on there, links to my specials and stuff like that. And I should have a stand-up special coming out on Amazon pretty soon. So that's going to be a cool one to watch. I think it's going to come out in June. It's called Bedroom Eyes.
Can't wait to check it out. Thank you so much for being on the episode today. Lovely is an Immigrantly media production. This episode was produced by Saadia Khan and Shei, written by me, Mehak. Music, sound design, and editing by Lou Raskin. Other music is by Epidemic Sound. Tune in every Friday for more Lovely.